So since we're already all sitting nice and tall, let's just start with that. So in order to really understand this practice, we have to step outside of our normal way of perceiving things. And the way that you think about your body, the way that you see your body, has everything to do with what you can experience and what you can feel in your body. So if we think of the body in a kind of mechanical framework, I'm a body that has arms and legs, and you think of it in a kind of utilitarian mindset, that's what you get. You get a tool body. Your body becomes a tool, a means to an end. And as such, in a way, over time, it happens slowly. We don't really see it happening, but we almost become anesthetized to our own bodies. We can still feel, of course, but if we were to jump back into our childhood bodies, we'd probably feel like we were tripping. But it happens slowly. We start to, sort of lose that heightened sense of awareness. It doesn't have to happen like that. So a lot of this practice is geared towards reawakening your ability to feel, reawakening your ability to perceive, and resensitize, if you will. So ironically, a lot of our yoga practices or standard practices can actually add insult to injury. It can make us even more shut down in a way. So if you use your body to do poses, you're kind of doing the same thing that yoga is supposed to stop. So this is a very serious matter, obviously. So I'm going to ask you right off the bat to do not see your body as a tool. See your body as a feeling body, as a being, as a sensitive, feeling, perceptive being. And keep in mind that we do not exist in a vacuum. Everything about our bodies is a relationship. Every cell in our body has a relationship with every other cell in our body. We have relationships with each other. We have a relationship with our environment. Your breath is proof of that. So when you breathe, think about it. You literally cannot live for more than a minute without the constant reminder that you need the environment. You need that which seems to be outside of you. So start to see your breath as the most primal reminder that in order to exist, you need to be in relationship with everything. So every breath, every time you breathe, it's not just keeping the machine going with oxygen. Every breath is a beautiful reminder that brings you into that blissful relationship. So I invite you now to breathe in that spirit. Breathe like every breath is a yes. Every time you inhale, it's like you're saying, yes, I want to be here. Every time you exhale, you're saying, yes, I'm arriving. And then notice how every exhale blends into an inhale. They're not broken. Every inhale becomes an exhale. So we start to step out of that blocky experience of time, minutes, seconds, hours, inhale, exhale, red light, green light, and we come into the flow via the breath. So I want you to feel the inhale as it becomes exhale, wherever you are in your breath. It doesn't have to match mine or anyone else's. But let that be the music today. Let that be the rhythm keeper. And it may change. It may sometimes be really deep and audible. Sometimes it may be barely there. Sometimes the tides are big fluctuations near the full moon and new moon. Sometimes they're a little more shallower. So let your breath be, but always feel it. Let's say hello to the main bases here, the most basic of which is to just topple forward onto the hands. Now, it doesn't matter how flexible you are. If you've toppled onto your hands, you can feel it in your hips, in your back, wherever it may appear on your body. And we want to introduce these sensations very lovingly, very kindly. And then over time, if you want to increase the volume, so to speak, the decibel level of those sensations, you just allow yourself to press in slowly over time. It's the equivalent of doing a fade in, a slow fade in with the volume knob. And when you do that, you don't shock your ears. Analogously, your tissues can begin to warm up to the idea of every pose. And as it warms up to the idea, it's more likely to invite you deeper. So we really have to work in relationship with the body. Good. To get more coverage, as we do in a lot of these postures, instead of just staying in the middle, let's just break it open to the sides. Just bring it to the right a little bit. Hover over that right leg. Even just a little bit is going to do huge changes. So as you hover over that right leg, you feel the left side beginning to open. Good. And now that breath is a yes to what you're feeling. Think about it. When we're in a traumatic moment or a shocking moment, we often hold our breath because breathing allows us to feel. So when we hold our breath, it's keeping the trauma in our bodies. Conversely, when you breathe, you release the trauma from your cells. So think of every breath as an undoing of all traumas, no matter how big or small. And then we're going to go to the rest of the side here, leaning on that right arm. There's kind of a tilt here. You can picture the axis of your spine, a few degrees to the right. And if you want to go further, you drop to the elbow. And then the next thing is to just think of that left arm pouring out of your heart towards that right wall. And that just gives us the sensation of length along the left side of the body. And then as a finishing touch, as you draw that arm gently up over the head, what we're looking for, the deep roots of the arm, in the heart, inside of the chest. Think about the interior of your body. And use the pose not to stretch the superficial, but to reach into the interior of your body. And then again, breathe. Breathing is also reconnecting broken circuits of mind-body connection. Yeah, so every breath is healing. And then when we slow down transitions, we're going to slowly topple forward, sweeping through the middle, arriving eventually over that left leg. We are essentially doing a deep tissue massage stroke that's opening up the tissues as we go. We arrive over that left leg. That means that the right side is getting more attention right now. And take some deep breaths. Good. Beautiful. Go the rest of the way. First, just establishing the lean, the tilt. So you're adjusting that based on what the right side of your body's telling you. If you're too far, it's going to be too much pull. So just find a nice pull. Let that right arm pour out towards that left wall. And then gently draw that arm up over the head. Again, search for the deepest roots of your arm inside of your heart. And by the way, just little changes in the tilt of your head or the rotation of your hands or the direction of your reach. It's almost like you're exploring. You might be knocking around in the dark at first, but the more that you explore, the more likely you are to find those sweet spots. That's what we're going for. The sweet spots is when your body says, yes, 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 that, I like that. Listen for your body talk. Good. And then we're going to kind of collapse back down nice and slow. Again, think of it like a deep tissue massage. Except instead of using your hands, you're using your bones on the inside of your tissues. When you come back to the middle, you're going to slowly stack the spine up. I want you to imagine, just play with the idea that you're really big, really, really tall. Be 100 feet tall with me. And let your motions express that grandiosity. We're going to let those arms pour out of the heart towards the floor and keep them bright and shiny, full to the brim, but soft nonetheless, as they sweep from downward to forward to upward. Now, upward is a very magical direction. I want you to close your eyes here and see with your arms. See with your fingertips. On the feeling level, there is no ceiling. So you're not underneath the ceiling right now. You're reaching right into the upper atmosphere and beyond. I want you to feel that you're plugging into that. Your two arms are like the prongs here that plug into that energy source above you and let it pour into your body. That means your reach has to have a certain softness, a certain receptivity, even as you're brightly reaching upward. Now, if we continue that reach, we're going to get this experience a number of times in different ways. Just brush that back edge. The arms brush that back edge, and it's a really nice undoing of the collapse of the heart. And we let the hands land on the floor behind us. We recline back, totally relax. And when you're ready, this time we're bringing our attention to the belly. Think of it like the sun, the solar plexus, the sun plexus. And we're going to shine that sun forward. And now just like the sun shines, it's bright, but it's not harsh. I'm going to have a nice bright reach through the belly. Feel the curvature of the spine, even the opening of all the chakras, throat, third eye, heart. Just kind of feel all those energy centers shining. And if you want to get those lower chakras into it, leave the seat and get the pelvic thrust into it. I love this pose because it becomes a kind of reclined version of camel pose, and you want to take this moment to make a statement to yourself. This is my body. I want to inhabit every cell in my body. Say that with this pose, not verbally, but with the pose. And really fill your body up with breath. And most of all, with you. Good. Then we come back, setting it down nice and softly. We're going to change up the whole template here by just letting the hands come to the floor in front of us and slide forward so we come up off the ankles, uncross the ankles. And we arrive in an all fours position, hands and knees. The first thing we want to do is find out what the bones are doing. Just let everything go kind of limp and lazy. Yes, let your head land, let your belly land. So if you got any more relaxed, you'd collapse. You want to have that hang in the belly. Good. Now feel that for a moment. Take a breath in. Breath is both a physical increase of awareness, the expansion of your lungs, but it's also kind of like light inside of your body. So when you're bringing in that deep breath, it allows you to see what's going on in there. So now that we can really feel the curvature in the spine already, we're just going to draw the head slowly up to deepen that curve. If you can imagine from a side view of your body, it's like a shallow U shape. Good. Now notice you've got some wiggle room. You kind of tip forward, tip back, belly low, head high. Just kind of keeping that same shape of your spine, but you're allowing yourself to move around a little bit. This is so important because it gives you perspective. If you look at a three-dimensional object from only one angle ever, it's as good as two-dimensional. So analogously, if we just stay in the center of the pose and we don't move around, we don't really feel its three-dimensionality. So I want you to move around in your poses, kind of explore the vicinity. And then we reverse the curvature of the spine from a downward curve to an upward curve. Let's start that movement with the tilt of the pelvis so the tailbone starts to drop. In turn, naturally, the spine's going to start to rise too, in the low back. That rise is going to ripple all the way up your back until your head drops. Then we give it a little more juice by pressing the arms confidently into the earth and drawing the chin to the chest, and maybe even bringing a little bit of tummy squeeze in this. You want to feel the surface area of your back opening up. And again, your body is really big. Breathe, expand those lungs literally to open up the back doors of the chakras. Good. And just like we did before, just play around a little bit. Tip forward, tip back, tip left, tip right, but keep the same curvature of your spine. Good. Then the next motion is a swivel, rather the fluctuation between the two. So the pelvis swivels down, kind of tilt that pelvis, the belly drops, that ripples up the spine until the head reaches the top. Good. And as the head is reaching the top, you're already dropping the tailbone again, and that's rippling up the spine. And as the head is reaching the bottom, the tailbone is tipping up. So you want to find this way of doing continuous waves rippling through your spine. If you need a visual, a perfect visual is just picture waves moving through water. Your body represents the water, and the waves are just passing through. Now, in order to move with such smoothness, you need to be able to think smoothly, picture smoothly. So let those waves get more and more smooth with every pass. It's not just about erasing tension in the tissues, we're erasing tension in the mind. The jerkiness of the mind gets ironed out with these waves. Now, it's not uncommon for us to feel some pressure building in the wrists because you may not be used to bearing weight this way. So I would ask that we just come back to a child's pose for a moment and let the wrists have a little moment to not bear our weight and be perfectly still. Besides whatever the breath is doing in the heart, be perfectly still and see if you can't feel the lingering effects of those waves through your body. Remember, we're resensitizing the body. It's a whole different code, ethic, and practice. This is not about using brute force, and it is not about manipulating the body. When we emerge again, we arrive in that hands and knees position again. So we explore that up and down wave. That kind of gives us the experience of what the spine is capable of. But now if we translate that over into all directions, the spine is not only capable of moving up and down here, it can move to the sides. And if you combine up and down with left and right, you've got infinite combinations. So for the next little bit, I want you to just really explore. Just let your whole body be free to move while your hands and knees stay put. And that means any movement that you do is going to be directly addressing and even coming from the spine. So just wiggle, twist, turn, swivel. There's no wrong way to do it. I invite you again to close your eyes. Don't think about what it looks like. Think about what it feels like. Good. Imagine you're on a roller coaster, but you're blindfolded. You don't know what turn is coming next. Every turn surprises you. So the only way to go on that ride is to relax and give yourself to the ride. Let your body show you. Or if you were a snake, you don't have any arms or legs, you're just a spine, how would you do your yoga? How would you open up your tissues? Good. And this is so brilliant because it's opening us up and loosening us up at the most central areas of the body. So we're starting from the inside and working our way out. In that spirit, we want to introduce our first twist, and this is one of my favorite twists of all. So what we're going to do is bring that right hand to the middle of the mat. And just for going through the full motion, the thoroughness of it, we're going to bring that left hand up the right arm and across the chest, almost as though you're manually drawing that left shoulder up and back. That brings in the twist. Then the two arms become as one tunnel. And nice deep breath. And then we're going to sweep that left arm back down as though it's going to go back where it started, but then it keeps going underneath the right arm. Back of the hand to the floor is usually a good way to go. And just slowly, straight down, setting that shoulder on the ground until you can softly let the head rest. Nice deep breath. And collapse into gravity like you're taking a nap here. And then from there, if you desire to bring in a little bit more of a torque to your twist, you can press down with your right hand, elbow at 90 degrees, or you can press against the floor with the back of your left arm. There's many ways to kind of get some more juice in that twist. And then on top of it, if you feel like reaching the right arm up to the sky, around your back, over your head, or really any direction, you're going to get a really wonderful activation of the nervous system here. Think of your brain as reaching into your body via the nervous system. And your body reaches into the brain. When we do a twist, you're addressing that whole network in a really beautiful way. So let's caress it with just 2 or 3 more deep breaths right here. And we're hoping that your eyes are rolling back in your head, which is a good indication of getting super deep. Good. Now the untwist is really the release of a kind of squeeze. We want to go slow. The right hand comes back down and release that squeeze by slowly sliding off that left arm. Back to the middle. As your body catches up with that, you're planting the left arm on the ground, sending the right arm up to the sky. And take a nice deep breath through the tunnel of your arms. And then take your time. Weave that right arm underneath the left. The slower you go into the twist, typically the better, because your tissues have time to adjust as you go. So we first land on the shoulder and the side of the head. Take a nice deep breath, relax on the exhale, and then add some squeeze, add some torque. Remember, exploring is the best way to learn about these poses. And exploration does not have to be obvious or demonstrative. It can just be very subtle little changes, little tiny movements. The only person that needs to notice them is you. Good. And one more deep breath right here. Let it go right into the electricity of your spine, this breath. And then the untwist. It's like the harvest. When you're coming out of the pose, you're harvesting all the goodness that we got from it. Yeah. And those knees are the ones asking for a break now. We're just going to do a little brief, little free form here again with the spine, just to erase any remaining hard edges. And when you're ready, you're turning the toes under to prepare to bring the knees off the ground. This is a great moment to just love up the feet. Just press back towards the heels and feel how the toes spread, and that spreading goes up into the soles of the feet. I want you to think of your feet, each as the size of a football field. Just big, vast areas of tissue here, opening up. Suck your breath way deep down into the soles of your feet. The body is very suggestive, so if you picture it in your mind, the breath going into your feet, the breath goes into your feet. Now when we're ready, the first time we leave the knees, we want to do it slowly. So we're going to kind of move away from the heels, and instead of picking up the knees in one quick yank, we want to very consciously make the knees lighter and lighter and lighter until they magically leave the ground. And you're noticing the activations in your body, your core, your chest, your arms, your legs. And you just almost imagine like a strong helium balloon tied to your tailbone. It's about to pick you up to the ground, off the ground rather, and then it pops and you just land lazily on the bones of your arms and your legs. And just like we've been practicing, you can adjust the formation at the base. Think about what's possible with your hands, for example. You can walk them back, walk them forward, wider or narrower. Same with the feet. So imagine you can create your own pyramid, and then from there, relax, breathe, explore. Good. If there's one rule in here, and this takes practice, it's never wait. Never wait for what's next. Because if you're waiting for what's next, that means something doesn't feel good, something doesn't feel right. Why would we want the next moment to come if this moment feels amazing? So your practice is to make every moment feel as good as possible, and if it doesn't, make the necessary changes. It's usually just a matter of easing up on yourself. Now, if your feet are not already about hip distance apart, bring them about hip distance apart back there. And we're going to shorten the distance between the hands and the feet just by scooching those hands backwards. Little baby steps, because this is allowing us a nice, long, thorough entry into focusing on the backs of your legs. So as your hands get closer, notice that the weight is kind of spilling out of the upper body and more into the lower body until eventually you can just hang from the waist up. Let the arms dangle or take opposite elbows. Traditional Padangustasana means you're grabbing the big toes with your middle and index fingers. Do any one of these options. But again, the pose is not so important. It's where you're feeling it. And this is when we get into the backs of the legs in a very focused way. The most important adjustment is how bent or straight your legs are. So the best way to find out is go all the way straight or close to it and feel what that's like. Then go all the way bent until your chest and tummy meet the legs, and feel that. Now it's a complete smooth spectrum of options there. You can go pick anywhere, either end of the spectrum or anywhere in between. And what you're looking for is a nice opening in the backs of your legs and in your low back and up the back. That feels harsh nowhere. Good. And then a more subtle adjustment, it's amazing how much this does too, is just a matter of giving more weight to the front of your feet. So it's like you're leaning forward a little bit. When you do that, there's a whole chain reaction up the bones and the tissues, and you can feel how it changes it. If you bring your weight more back to your heels, it's very different. Yeah, there's no such thing as a small change when you're really feeling your body. Every change is big. Good, and just like you can shift your weight from forward to back, you can shift it from left to right. You combine the two, you've got infinite options. Good. Keep in mind, this is not what the traditional yogis taught. It was all about getting your body into a pose, into a shape, and staying there. So this is highly unorthodox. But you'll find that it makes you more of a master of the pose when you move around it. And come back to the middle. We're going to revisit that again later, but our head has been hanging below the waist for a while, so we want to slowly slide the hands up the tracks of the legs till we get up about halfway. And you can see yourself in the mirror. This is where we get that nice even flexion along the back in combination with this opening in the legs. Let the exhale sweep the hands the rest of the way to the hips. Your hands are like flashlights into your body. Where your hands go, your attention goes. So I want you to see into your hips with your hands as you swivel the rest of the way up. Really feel that motion until you come up to the top. Feel your weight spill down your body, through your legs and into the earth. A nice deep breath and totally relax, and then slightly gripping toes, slightly flexing legs to stabilize underneath you. And then we're just gently pressing the pelvis forward. As you do that, you're creating the curvature in your spine. You'll notice the legs start to flex more, the tummy starts to flex more, and we do not want to let the knees bend because that robs it from the spine. So you keep those legs straight. Now everything is both physical and energetic. So this is very physical. You can feel the flexion, actual muscles, the bending of the spine, but I want you to feel the subtle energetics of it. What is it asking you to do here, inside, internally? Where can you relax? Where can you allow? Try to remove any resistance in this pose and let the breath flow deeply. If it feels like too much, just back off even the tiniest bit. Good. As though a millimeter is a mile, draw yourself back to a neutral stance. Arms fall at your sides. Until we're back in just a natural stance there at the back of our mats. Perfectly still so that you can feel the movement of energy in your body. Good. So we've gone forward, we've gone back, two very highly contrasting sensations and energies. Let's try a new direction, just downward, let the knees bend. As the knees bend, you're introducing something very simple, very basic. It's a new energy that wasn't there a moment ago, and I want you to just get acquainted with that energy. But not in a stiff container. If your legs are stiff, you're burning way more energy than you need to. Just a couple of smooth, bouncy, relaxed motions here can remind the body, okay, I'm not resisting this. I'm letting it come up into the body. Next place that we usually shut down is in the tilt of the pelvis. So if you notice you're leaning forward at all, that's kind of like keeping a lid on it. We want to bring that torso back up and drop the tailbone so that the pelvis can be free and relaxed. And then that energy has room to breathe. We're just going to go ahead and just let it out through the arms, whether that's forward or upward or backward, whatever feels like overflow to you. Take total creative freedom here, and it even can be continuous motion. But the idea is kind of like you're sitting into the earth, tapping the wellspring, and you become the fountain, and you're just letting your body be that fountain. One energy flow as you breathe. Good. Now, what is the difference between this getting us tired versus getting energized? Of course, I want you to go for the latter, and it's a shift in your mind. As soon as you start wondering how long you have to hold it, the countdown ticker starts going and you're running out of energy. I want you to imagine that you're going to stay here for a very long time. So how are you going to manage your energy? How are you going to remove the exhaust and exhaustion? You don't get exhausted if you don't create exhaust. Where does exhaust come from? It comes from friction. It comes from burning energy. So we want to be able to harness energy, channel energy with as little friction as possible. Good, the legs start to straighten and the arms softly fall, and we're just going to munch on that for a moment. Let your cells really absorb and digest. Any fantastic symphony is written note by note. And the way we enter this practice is kind of getting the singular notes. And then we start to combine them into chords. And that's the poses we're going to start to move into. But in order to create the chords, we have to understand the notes. In their entirety. See, that pose we were just in is still ringing. That note is still sounding. The next note we're going to explore is the one we call up. We did this seated, now we're doing it standing. And this time I want you to give your whole body to the direction called up. So imagine leaving the ground. And really, try to. I want you to try to leave the ground without jumping. I often wonder if the only reason no one's flown yet is because we gave up too early. So don't give up. Give it all your heart and soul. You're a child who knows that if you just hang with it long enough, you're going to leave the ground. You're going to touch the stars. Mama's calling you in for dinner, and you're not going in. You're about to fly. Good. And then the heels softly land on the earth, and the arms softly fall to your sides, and you let your cells vibrate with that. Think of that last note with the legs bent, and think of this note with the going up, how they're different. We're going to start combining them. So go back down again, but this time we're committing to the full journey down. Now, not everyone's knees will be able to make way for a full squat, and that's understandable. That's okay. You want to kind of allow your body to be where it's at. So either you're coming onto the hands, or maybe some of you might be able to stay on the feet, maybe even the entire soles of the feet, but you just want to find the squat that works for your body. Here's a whole other note. It's usually omitted from any yoga books as an official pose, which is crazy because this is one of the most amazing positions. So we'll call it squattasana. Opening the ankles, opening the knees, feeling the low back release. And then a beautiful time to get in touch with the pelvic floor muscle perineum and the energetic component to that, just by flexing at the base of the pelvis. The way that I describe it, it's almost like an energetic trampoline floor. If you're just relaxing your base, it's almost like the energy just sort of flows out. But when you engage that pelvic floor muscle, it creates a nice bouncy floor for your energy. It kind of draws the energy up the spine. Then we're tip it forward onto the hands. This brings in a new element. It's almost creating a squatted downward dog. And the way that you turn up the volume knob on this one is just take little steps forward with your hands, and you'll notice as your hands get further away, the energy gets hotter and hotter. And so it's up to you. How much do you want to dose your body with? Try to find a nice heat that isn't too much and you've got some staying power. Call this one pounce-asana. Like you're ready to pounce. Let your breath match the intensity. So if the heat is growing, let your breath grow too. Yeah.
Good. And then there's a slow motion pounce. Let's start with the left leg today just because we can. As you slow motion pounce, you're bringing that foot up towards the front of the mat. And that leaves that back leg, that right leg far behind you. I want you to just feel this version of lunge for a moment. Because the heel is off the ground back there, more of your weight is kind of focused on this front leg. It's a very different kind of sensation in that right leg. Reach through the heel, kind of flex that right leg straight like you're reaching the heel back, and feel what that does. Drop down a little bit more towards the floor. Let your pelvis drop a little further, and you start to get that opening, that telltale opening there on the front of that right hip. That's the beauty of this. And then, of course, because of your training wheels here, your arms, that allows you some tippability, you can actually really do beautiful massage here for that right leg and hip. Good. We're breathing deeper now. We're getting a little deeper into the tissues. Good. Now, if you're loving all of that and you still want more, and don't just throw yourself into this, especially if it's new. We're going to leave the hands as an option. If you leave the hands and you go, oh, nope, that's too much, come back down to the hands. That's okay too. No harm in trying something out. Now from there, if you're up off the hands, they can rest on your knee, they can go to the sky, they can clasp behind your back. Any number of options here. And again, beautiful pose. And because of this long lunge, it's really creating strength and opening there for your hips and legs. One more deep breath. And then setting it back down, gentle with care. The hands then plant at the front corners of your mat. We float that left foot back to meet the right. And we arrive in our first plank today. So plank is just basically an upper push-up, like you're getting ready to do a push-up. But just hold the earth at arm's length. And notice that this also has a lot of wiggle room, side to side, forward and back. Just play. If it's too much for your wrists or arms, you go to your knees. And you still get the same effect with less heat. Now, nice deep breath. When you're ready, the elbows bend backward. And this first time down, we're going all the way down, making full contact with the earth. Hands are resting by the shoulders, elbows tucked in at the sides. Before we do any drawing up of anything, we're just going to go along the floor. Reach your head towards the mirror wall. Reach your toes to the back wall. Get nice and long. And without pushing on the floor with your hands, just gently peel your chest off the mat. Just enough to get a really delicious squeeze down the back. If you go too far, you get what I call that crimping sensation. We don't want any crimping or muscles balling up back there. We just want a nice pull. And breathe. Good. Think about the connection between the tip of your toes and the crown of your head. Shorten the distance between the two mentally. Good. Turning it into an upward dog by just adding the plank arms again. So you push back down but stay in the curve. And all that support travels from the back of your body to the front of your body. So now your tummy is engaged, your legs are engaged. And there's a lot of play here for how deep the curvature is. So just explore. When you're ready, we're going to float over the toes into our next pyramid pose and just let this be a little bit of ginger between the sushi bites. Cleanse the palate. Nice. So recall when we were starting the other side, we started in a squat asana and then went into pounce asana. This time we're already in downward dog. We're just going to add the squat and drop down into a squat wherever your hands may be, and then adjust accordingly. So you can walk the hands further back or further forward, get that heat flowing. So this is such a cool pose because it activates your core, but as it reaches into the chest and arms too. So we want you to think of your core not just in your belly, but going up your whole front side of your body. Last time the left leg was leading. This time we're going to very gracefully and slowly draw that right foot forward. So you want to get both height as you get the forward motion, and that leaves the left leg behind. Now you got your arms supporting. Recall last time when you left your arms, if it was too intense, just plan on staying here on your arms. This is a great option. Reaching through the heel, flexing that leg, and dropping down lower. So we want this one to be nice and stealthy, close to the ground. Good. And if you choose to leave the hands, do so carefully and kindly. On up. Remember that Mula Bandha pelvic floor muscle engaged underneath you? And then whatever you want to do up top. We're combining a lot of the notes we've covered today. You got a little bit of upward dog leg in that back leg. You've got the squat leg in the front leg. You've got the up direction of the reaching. Now we're starting to combine the flavors. Good. Combining the notes into a chord. Good. When you're ready, you come back down to the hands again, just like before. Float that right foot back. Hold the earth at arm's length. Gravity is saying, come here. And you are saying no with your heart, with your arms, with passion. And that's what creates the energy. That resistance creates a kind of charge. It's giving you, the chi that you need. And then this time when we drop back down, you can feel free to go all the way down like before, or for more heat, hovering just above the ground. A wonderful flavor. And then scoop to the tops of the feet for upward dog, or staying on the ground for cobra. And let's all retreat back to a child's pose. Whew. Good. We can't think of these poses like supplements. You know, you throw a supplement in your body, the supplement's supposed to do something to you. You just throw it back with a glass of water and let it do its work. And here, every pose is partially the pose, but mostly it's how you receive it, how you experience it. And you have a lot of agency there. You have a lot of say in how a pose affects you. That's why we take these pauses. Good. We emerge again out of the earth onto hands and knees, arriving in that template we started out with earlier. Allow yourself some free form again. When we revisit a form or a movement that we haven't done in a while, it's a great way to check in. Do you feel perhaps a little bit more fluid now? Do you feel more available for the nudgings of your body as you move the spine, the head, the shoulders, the pelvis, however the body wants? Just a little check-in. I'm going to activate the body in a new way from here. Come to a nice and neutral place. So even the spine is more neutral, kind of parallel to the earth. We're going to play with the physics of weight conversion to energy. So right now your weight is distributed between 4 main contacts, right? 2 hands, 2 legs. Now let's see what happens when we remove one of those supports. We're going to start with the right arm. So when that right arm slowly leaves the ground, what's happening to that weight? You can feel how it leaves that right arm, but then it transfers to the other limbs, the remaining 3, turning up the energy level. So that's weight conversion to energy. Good. Just breathe into that. Imagine this is the whole pose. It's just right here. Once you got a handle on that, beam that right arm straight ahead as though it originates from the depths of your heart, because it does, and reach brightly all the way through the fingertips. Good. Now we just added another note to this chord. Good.
What does that do? Let's see what happens if we remove another one of the supports. Let's do the left knee this time. The left knee gets lighter and lighter, leaving us on 2 supports. Now we've just converted that weight into even more energy. Take a breath into that. And then a final finishing touch. Send that left leg straight back. It's as though the arm and the leg are reaching opposite directions, but from the same source. All 4 limbs, in fact. And we just breathe right here. Sending that arm sweeping out to the side. Just notice what happens in the shoulder and the chest. Sweeping that left leg out to the side. Good, and that can come right in for landing. If you're new to this, it's probably best you let the foot slide right onto the floor. If you're more familiar, you can keep that foot floating for a moment. We're gonna bring that right hand back to where it was originally. And then if your foot hasn't landed, let it land. So it becomes, again, all the body weight is basically supported by the bones. Now what this does is allows us to enter in that inner left leg, the groin area, down that leg, and the toes of the left foot are pointed more or less forward, and that allows us to open up the outside of that ankle. And now we're going to explore. I want you to go back to almost like a child's pose version of this and keep your attention on the inner left leg and feel what that does. A couple deep breaths right here. Experiencing the transition, slow motion, we come up off the heel and go the other direction, more towards an upward dog-like version. Keeping the attention on that inner hip and see what happens. Good. Now that you've experienced the full spectrum, zero in on your favorite place. Perhaps it was somewhere in between, or was it one of the ends of the spectrum, or it's continuous motion. Maybe you just want to go back and forth, and just lovingly open up that whole hip area. Nice deep breaths. Remember the pose, what the pose is doing is it's giving you access to different areas of your body. So it gives you a way to feel and become conscious. Then it's all about that breath and that enjoyment factor, and that's what allows the body to release the traumas, the tension. That's the healing. So the pose is just the occasion for the healing. When we come back to the middle, and this moment is optional here. You can keep the leg out to the side and bring it off the ground slowly. That's a pretty intense thing sometimes. If you've never experienced that before, it activates something in the hip that many of us have never really felt. If you want, you can just go right back to the knee instead. But if you want to take the long, hot trip, let that foot float off the ground. So you're still on 3 limb support, but we're really activating that back leg. Good. And then we sweep it with a nice kind of karate kick sort of fullness to that leg. We're going to sweep it from the side to the back. Give it a nice little lift. Good, with the head too. And a couple deep breaths right here. Good. To finish off this side, bring that leg to the front again, like we did in the lunge, only this time. We're staying on the right knee, and we're just gonna allow ourselves to slip in on the inside of that left leg to whatever degree the tissues allow. Don't force it. If it feels good there, you may even want to consider letting that foot roll to the outer edge of that left foot. So it becomes a kind of an exaggerated pigeon pose, which opens up the whole hip area and glute. You can be on the hands, you can be on the elbows. And notice there's a great deal of freedom here. The tippability, left, right. Good. Good, now the pose is just half of it. How are you experiencing it? How are you relating to the sensations? That's where we really get the medicine. So even if you're just thinking in your mind, sensation, I love you. I love all of you. Breathe into that. That makes a difference. Smile at the sensation. Don't frown at it. Good. And it's with that smile that gives us the green light to go even deeper if we choose. So you can add deeper pressure, more intensity, as long as it's coming from that loving place. Good. And we're gonna bring that left foot flat again. Let that left arm travel up and around. And we float that leg back.
Now, if you're tired of the dip and scoop, you can skip it. Otherwise, just come with me again. You kind of exhale down to the earth, get good and thirsty for the inhale, and let the inhale scoop us up into a nice wave crashing against the shore. Retreat back into a child's pose and gently rock your hips side to side. Now, the in between the two sides is an interesting moment because you're kind of getting a before and after shot. What's the difference between your left hip and your right hip right now? Good, and that rocking, the reason that rocking is good is because since your legs are braced against the earth, when you rock, imagine the ball and socket joints, those deep connection points of the legs to the pelvis, they get nice and open when you do that little gentle rock. Soothing for the previous side and preparation for the coming side. When you're ready, like before, we're gonna emerge onto the hands and knees. A brief moment of free form. This serves as a reminder the body is not stiff, rigid, it's always available. So when we move fluidly and then we come back to stillness, that's a different kind of stillness. That's a fluid stillness as opposed to a stiff one. Then we're ready to remove that left hand consciously from the ground. Anytime something leaves the ground, do it a little slow so you can really feel the transfer. A breath or two into that. When you got a handle on that, add the next note to this chord, the beaming left arm straight ahead. And the deeper place that the reach comes from, the more sustainable the reach. So that's why I keep reminding you, your arm starts deep inside your heart. Reach from there. Next thing to leave the ground, the next note in this chord is the right knee leaves the ground, and we just feel that for a breath. Next note, send that right leg beaming straight back, but not as a separate limb from the rest. It's one holistic picture here. You want to hold your whole body in the same one field of awareness. And breathe. Let it energize you as opposed to tire you. Change the flavor in that arm by sweeping it out to the side like a wing. When you've got a handle on that, sweep that right leg out to the side to hover or to come right in for landing. That's up to you. A breath or two. Left arm returns to the earth. We're back to 3 supports. And then right foot lands and we're ready. So you take a few moments just right in the center here to let that inner hip and groin area get the message. And then let's retreat back to a child's pose. Now, one of the ways we get programmed about the body is we have this idea of extremities. What is an extremity? Extremity is an idea that there's a part of your body that's further away. That's kind of silly. That's like saying you're less your foot than you are your heart. Well, right now that right foot seems further away, but it's not. See, this is why the way we think about the body affects how we feel it and how we move it. Come forward towards the upward dog version of this when you're ready. Feel the transition. So one of the reprogrammings, you could say, is to, instead of thinking of being inside your body, you're inside your body, think of your body is inside of you. Instead of your heart is in you, you are in your heart. There's something to play with. So your heart surrounds you. Good. And exploring for the next few, find your favorite spot or just keep a move. Good. Now that thought experiment is really helpful here as we come back to the middle. Your foot is not any further away from you than your heart. Then pick it up. And let that focus, notice how it just focuses the energy right into the depths of that hip that we're about to open up now. Keep that nice Bruce Lee power kick through that foot as you sweep it back. Once it's back, we give it a nice reach to the back wall through the toes and a lift from there. Beautiful sensation. And focusing it all right on that glute. And however you bring that leg up to the front, it's all yours. Bring that leg into a nice deep lunge, staying on the left knee. And as you get the green light from your tissues, you just slide right inside that leg. Feel free to roll to the outer edge of that right foot too. Remember tippability, tiltability, even to the slightest degree. You get resensitized to your body so much that you can just think about tipping and you can feel it. This brings in a whole other awareness that thoughts are movements. Visuals in your mind are movements in the body. Make us think twice about what movies we watch. Good. We slowly come up and away. Bring that right arm back outside the right leg. Once those arms start to bear some of the weight, that right foot floats back, and we hold the earth at arm's length again. Generate some chi. If you're ready to just retreat right back to child's pose, you can. Otherwise, we're just going to build some chi there in the plank, on or off the knees. Big, big inhale. Surf the exhale down to the earth, either all the way down or just hovering in chaturanga. And scoop into cobra or upward dog, respectively. And let's all retreat back to a child's pose and let those notes ring. And maybe a little rocking side to side in those hips, just for a soothing caress. Good. So that actually, what we just did was pretty powerful for the whole fulcrum of the hips. That whole power area, pelvis, legs, hips. Now we're gonna really feel how that affects us as we get back to our feet again. So we're gonna emerge off the child's pose, morphing through that hands and knees as it turns into a hands and feet pyramid, exhaling. With the next in-breath, we wanna surf it to the front while we walk or step smoothly to the front. And feet arriving side by side now. And as you get to the front of your mat, halfway up, as the inhale reaches its peak, watch that wave roll away. You're behind that wave as you fall on an exhale. The next wave is even taller as it picks us up. Nice big sweep, radiant, celebratory sweep with the arms. Let's linger here up at the top for at least a breath or two. Nice and long. Good. And as the arms fall, we're stepping that left leg back and we're turning to face that wall. Parallel the feet. The first thing we want to notice here is the distance between the feet. That's all about what your inner hips and legs are telling you. If they go too far, you start to border that split feeling. That's going to be a bit much. So you can bring it closer or wider. Good. Free up the pelvis a little bit. Even if having the hands there helps, just kind of make sure your pelvis and legs are fluid where they meet. And we're going to start to play on top of this here with some very basic but profound postures. That right foot points to the mirrors again. That's actually a huge motion because all that's happening is the leg is rotating. So with that rotation and the wideness of the stance, we start to open up again deep connections in that right hip area. If it's too much, shorten the distance. Hands on the hips. Notice if you keep your legs straight here, they can't bend, any movement's going to go right into those hips, and that's the point. So we want to keep that leg straight, especially that right one, and tip over just a little bit. So the focus of it will be the deep inner hip, but it'll also, you can feel, kind of goes down the leg, back of the knee, hams. Just notice wherever you feel it. And err on the gentler side.
Beautiful. Then from there, just let that right arm lazily fall. That's a good place for your hand. The reason we do that at this point and not starting with that is because then we might end up prioritizing the hand and overriding the hip. Instead, we're flipping that. We're focusing on the hip. Let the hand follow. Then that left arm beams up to the sky. And then the final finishing touch with this, as with many postures, is what's your head doing? Just check in with your neck, because where your head is looking is affecting your neck. So you can look to the hand as in the traditional drishti or gazing point, or you can look to the floor or anywhere in between. Play with the tilt of your head. Chin towards your chest or away from your chest. Palm rotation. Typically palms just default forward. What if the palms go back or face the mirrors or up? Good. Another flavor that you can add to Trikonasana that might be nice is to sweep that arm around your back, kind of hook the fingers around the right thigh. Just another option. Good. Now, oftentimes we'll go from one pose to a different pose on the same side. Today I want to go from side to side with these. So we're going to slowly draw ourselves up. Remember, the exit of a pose is the harvest of all its goodies. And coming back up nice and slow. Bring that right foot parallel to the left again. That left leg now swivels. So as your right hip is absorbing that, you're already introducing the pose on the left side. Take a few moments there up top to just feel the lay of the land in the hip especially. And like a good massage therapist, pressing in with a little bit more pressure, but looking for the kickback. You don't want to get too much kickback. Good. Once you've found the angle of your pelvis in tilt, let the left arm drop, let the right arm fountain. Good. Now maybe one day you'll find that your hand is on your foot, but it never has to actually get there because you feel how good this feels. I think there's way too much emphasis on flexibility, as though like if you're able to bend more, that means you're healthier. Try to let that idea go. It could very well be the opposite. You could get too flexible. Let your body decide how flexible it needs to be. Good. I want you to study the mechanisms involved in the return back to center. By mechanisms, I hesitate to use that word because we're not machines, but feel, where is the pull coming from? Where does the lift come from? Where are the sensations as you come back up? And we try the lunge cousin of Trikonasana is we switch the feet again and introduce a bend into the right leg. And just take a moment with that. What does that do? How is that different than a straight leg? Just feeling that. And you can even A-B them, as we say in audio production terms. A and B. Just feel the difference. Good. And the arms beam out parallel to the earth. So it starts off kind of as a Virabhadrasana warrior. Palms up or down. Just feeling that. And then tipping, like we did in Trikonasana. So it's going to have a different effect. And as you can see, there's more muscle, more energy involved in that right leg. So we're going to come to that right elbow, tends to be a good middle ground. For some of us, the hand is better. Still, for some of us, outside of the leg, that arm lands, hand on the floor. But I would avoid doing that if it means you're having to bend a lot. So we want to keep that left side of the body more on the straight side. Let that left arm beam up to the sky like you mean it. And then simply topple it towards the ear till we end up with a nice long line from the heel to the fingertip. And then, of course, find your head placement. Still another option for more bendy folks. We're going to slide that right arm inside the right leg and take the opposite hand or elbow, rather wrist, behind the back. Good. Beautiful, guys. And it's your journey to the other side. Remember, coming out of the pose is important. Take your time. That right leg straightens. A brief moment with parallel feet and mirroring legs. Swivel that left foot out to point to the back wall and let the knee bend again. When you're ready, Topple onto the hand or the elbow or the hand outside the foot. Right arm fountains to the sky and then topples over the head. Beautiful, guys. Now just imagine that every limb is exuberant in its own way, in its own right. So there's nothing, you're relaxed, but you're not lazy. Everything is brightly shining. Really occupy every corner of your body. That's what makes these poses feel really good. Really fill it up. Good. Most excellent. Harvesting on your way back to center. Parallel feet again. Let's just get loosey-goosey for a moment. Remind the body to not be taking this too seriously. Yeah. Nice. As usual, time's going too fast. Good. Star pose. Star pose is really beautiful, and actually I'm excited to try it in the silence because I want you to almost hear the shine of this pose. What we want to do is, first, again, when you just think about the center of you, that may not be a specific physical point, but you may be able to sense that it's somewhere inside of you. I want you to feel and think about what feels like the closest place to home for you, your most tender inside, your most deep place. And that needs to be the origin, the genesis of this pose. So almost like a star collapsing under its own weight before the supernova, I want you to kind of feel everything come in with an inhale perhaps, and then with an exhale, and really feel the emanations out from that center place. And as it's physically pictured, star pose. Good. Now again, we got to shift the mind in order to shift the body here. You're not in your body is in you. You're not reaching out, you're reaching in. Or you could say, reaching out is reaching in. In order to really reach out, we got to find that source within. And then that hard line that kind of separates our inner and outer worlds starts to soften. Good. After some time, you may notice the habit of old ways of thinking appearing on the body as tension perhaps in the shoulders or chest. You just notice it and just melt it away. That doesn't have to be there. Those tensions don't have to be here. That's just an old habit. Or burst into a new star. There's no rule against that either. Good. Like shedding a skin again and again. Emerging anew. Again, exhaustion comes from our thinking. We're exhausted by the way we think. And the good news is we can change the way we think. Does that translate to the body? You betcha. Good. And as a symbol of kind of shedding all those heavy outer armor layers, we're going to sweep the arms down. So really like you mean it, but not hard, not harsh, just thorough as we sweep from the ground to the wall to the sky. And as we brush the heart wide open, as the arms brush that back edge and the hands reunite behind the back, interlacing the fingers. Inhale, straightening the arms, blast that heart wide open for good now. Inhale. And then with the exhale, we just bring it home, fall forward one more time. And just a beautiful way to ensure there's nothing left between you and you. I call that the inner nakedness. Nothing that's blocking you from you anymore. Total inner communion.
Good. We introduce a knee bend just to bring in a nice, strong, and fluid base. And much like we did before, just drop into the lunges. A nice deep lunge into the left side or right side. And deep, not so deep that you're concerned about whether or not you can come out again, but just short of that, where you can press out nice and smooth up through the center and then drop into your other side, whichever that is. And again, the difference between burning energy and gaining it is all in the mind. It's as simple as deciding. Good. Like any wind turbine or energy generating turbine, every lunge is increasing your power and energy. Charging up your battery. Good. And however you find yourself to the middle and however you find yourself back up, your hands can separate now if they haven't already. Your body should be nice and tingly from all that. We're gonna simply step up to the front by pointing the right foot towards the front of the mat and float our weight into that right leg so we can softly draw the left leg up to meet the right. Look down just to make sure your feet are basically lined up. That's one of the only times I ask you to use your eyeballs to line. And then you can put that out of your mind because you know at the ground floor you're aligned. Now, this brings up a really interesting point. Alignment, is that a matter of looking at your body and seeing one shoulder is higher than the other or one hip or anything like that? Or could alignment be something deeper? Something more innate? So we're going to close the eyes. Don't look at your reflection right now. And just feel the alignment. For example, is one of your feet lighter than the other? If so, balance it out so it feels totally equal. The front of your feet heavier than the heels or vice versa. Balance it out so it's nice and equal. Feel your body in sway. The only reason you can feel that sway is because you know the center. You know when you're not in the center. That doesn't make the sway bad. It just means that when you feel the sway, you know that it's you feeling your center. That's very important because that is what we're aligning to. Alignment doesn't come from imposing it from the outside. Alignment comes from the inside. So as long as you keep connecting to that center, I promise you everything in the intelligence of the body will align around that. Good. So today we'll let balance be as simple as that. It's a kind of simple bliss, the stillness and the simplicity. Just feeling your center. Furthermore, if you expand it outside of just your body and think about the earth, remember we're relational beings, so you're in a relationship with the earth. That's how you can find your balance. So picture that line between you and the earth like an invisible pole. Well, that translates for every heavenly body. Imagine a line right from you to the moon, a line from you to the sun, a line from you to every other planet, a line from you to every other galaxy, every other star. And just think about the connection that you have to all of it, right where you stand. So the feeling of balance is, in a way, the feeling of connecting to the whole field. And that's blissful. So we're going to keep that feeling with us, take it with us as we sweep our arms through the entire universe. Outward and upward until the palms meet. Good. Reaching infinitely up as we reach infinitely down. Both directions. Exhale. Let's glide through the air. Sweep the slates clean. Into one more standing fold. Let's hang here for just an extra breath or two, whether or not your legs are bent. Remember, you're always in charge of the intensity level. Let's do a nice couple of deep breaths. So good for your backside. Good. One last time, just part way up again to remember that nice little back squeeze. With an exhale, we plant the hands, step, walk, or hop back. If you do the hop, we want that to be soft. Hold the earth at arm's length for a nice big inhale. Unless you want to retreat right back to child's pose, we're going to go through the scoop one last time.
Exhale to the earth. Inhale, kaboom, into the coast like a wave. And exhale over the toes, hands and feet. This is our last pyramid of the day. So just squeeze the juice out of it. A few deep breaths here. Stepping, walking, hopping, breakdancing, however you want to get to seated. To the front. Feet flat. We're going to actually wrap up today by coming into the core. So sometimes we do this earlier on to kind of activate that core. This time we're using it as a way of kind of bringing everything home. So if we're resting on our feet and our hands, you'll notice tummy is relaxed. It doesn't need to flex. So we just kind of feel the body in its relaxed state. When we remove the feet from the ground, slow motion, you can feel how it goes hand in hand with activating the core. You can A-B it if you want. Good. So we're just kind of staying on the hands this time. And you can let the legs go more straight, more bent. They can go higher, they can go lower. They can separate. They can combine. Like one can come in, the other can come in. So many ways to play. So I want you to just explore that leg-core connection. So what's important about this is understanding your core is not contained by your belly, but your core extends into your limbs. Very important. So remember, the word yoga means union. Well, this is a very literal unifying of the body with the core. We're going to give the same medicine to the upper core now as we let the feet land, let the arms leave the ground. Let your body, your torso basically stays the same, and just move your arms around a little bit. Just feel the arm-core connection. Good. So much like we were saying, your heart is not in you, you're in your heart. Well, let's do that with the core too. Your core is not in you, you're in your core. Very different mindset, very different way of relating to it. You can feel that your fingertips are even in your core. So with that awareness, you become a lot more powerful. Good. Let the hands either return to the floor or wrap around the legs. Let everything relax and soften. Deep breaths. There are cultures who are known to have no words for past or future. Those are foreign concepts to them. And therefore they experience time differently, experience reality differently. Well, that's infinitely translatable to every area of life. So if we think of how many ways can we think about the body? How can we change our relationship to the body? And when you're ready, leaving the hands or the arms, and one more dance here. Let your whole body, your legs, your arms, torso, everything's just playing in that unifying energy field of the core. So it's centered in the belly button area, but its effect reaches to your farthest fingertips and toes, top of your head. Good. Nice deep breaths. If your feet happen to be off the ground, let them land again. And if possible, without the help of the arms, reclining back. If you need the arms, it's okay. The reason for leaving them out is because it really requires us to activate the upper core, which is a really nice feeling. Take your time. Once you're all the way on the back, and take a nice deep breath. Your feet still on the ground and your knees still bent. Nice deep breath, and we're going to just consciously, as if from the core, drive those heels into the earth, and magically the pelvis levitates off the ground.
Get a nice squeeze in the glutes area, low back, all of that. And now the belly can just relax and open.
And flood that belly with breath. You want to look down and be able to see it rising and falling with breath. Big breaths right now. Awesome.
Softly setting it back down. And either staying on the back and just letting the legs go up towards the sky, which is kind of the most basic of inversions. You're just inverting the legs, really. But that's great. That's actually a really great option. If you feel ready for the next stage of that, it's just get those elbows, those arms right by your sides, and the backs of the elbows press into the earth so you can prop up onto the hands. Starting with the hands more at the sacrum, hips area. And as long as your neck does not feel compromised by it, you can walk the hands further up the back, which brings the chest closer to your chin.
And just getting more and more vertical. Sharvangasana, shoulder stand. Good. The only trick to this one is being upside down. Easy enough. Let gravity do the rest. For the next few, however, if you want to let the legs play, kind of free-form it up there, one of the options, if you can let your feet be floppy.
Like they're just barely attached to the ankles, and just shake the legs so that the feet wobble up there. It can be an amazing after effect to really open up the energy flow in the ankles and feet where they often get compressed
and over time shut down. Think about it, we cram our feet into shoes all the time and they bear all of our weight. So it's a nice time to just love up the feet. Good. And when you're ready, the feet start to move towards the floor that's above the head or behind the head, depending on how you look at it. And it doesn't have to touch the floor. It doesn't ever have to touch the floor. It's just a direction that we're going until we activate one more time. The backs of the legs and the low back in a very unique way. So even though we've done a number of different forward folds, this has a very unique and special effect. See if you can see how it's different. Feel how it's different. And if your feet happen to be on the ground, feel free to walk them kind of side to side and get a little bit more lateral coverage. Nice. Big difference between reaching the toes and reaching the heels. I think it's just a matter of preference, what you're in the mood for. If you haven't already bent your knees, bend your knees. Kanapadasana means ear pressure pose, but your knees don't have to get to your ears. Good. And as you gently return your back to the floor, the legs can bend and we can reach for the soles of the feet from the inside and just kind of gently pull down. This is called happy baby pose. So you're kind of pulling down on the feet from the inside. Or if you want, you can wrap the arms around the legs first and take the outsides of the feet. Gently pull down. Happy baby. I've also heard it called dead bugs pose, but that's not nearly as appealing. Good. To top off our journey today, one last twist. And you can do this in a number of ways. You can kind of bring your legs down, keep them together as a unit and go one side or the other. Or one leg stays straight and one goes over the other. And still another option is to wrap one leg around the other and fall to the side opposite of the top leg. So the lower leg kind of draws that right side even more and you get more of the opening in your low back and hip there that way. Beautiful pose. And these are the last few big waves of breath that are crashing on our shore here, so really enjoy them. You are the seashore and your breath are the waves. Good. And then switching sides when you see fit. When you feel saturated by that twist, you can come back to the middle. If you like to feel like you're balancing out the sides, you can just do one more hug of the legs if you like, or otherwise just flop right on your back. And dim these lights for you. Good. So just let the sound of silence and the feeling of stillness unite as one. As we feel what has, for so much of our lives, been eclipsed by the noise and by the busybody movements. These days, it's a highly exclusive experience, stillness and silence. So feel special as you float through space on the planet. I'll see you on the other side. So much like balance and silence and stillness, they all have something in common. Utter simplicity. And it's that utter simplicity that brings back sanity to our lives and to our world. So the more of us that are tuned into that simplicity in the midst of all the noise and chaos and anxiety, the better this world becomes. So your well-being becomes everyone's well-being. So I'm hoping at the end of this journey we've just been on, you're feeling more simple, you're feeling more connected, you're feeling more here, more calm, more centered. But more, my hope is that you stay here even when you leave the yoga room. So take your time, whatever you need to honor this space. Your exit may be quicker or slower than others. Just make sure it honors the specialness of this moment So thank you so much for coming, and a namaste. Take your time.